everyone, and welcome back to Sunday Sessions. I am Ronnie Big Bang Nicole here with the majestic Michael Sorg of Sorgatron Media. Thank you for joining us for episode 3 of Sunday Sessions. Guys, we only have one more episode, and I promise the last one's going to be a banger. So make sure you join us live on February 28th, and it's going to be a really big surprise. Don't dishonor yourself and miss out. I'm really, really excited, speaking of honor, to be here with my two amazing guests. Very good friend, my vet, the savior of professional wrestling, the Rev Ron Hunt, and my darling, beautiful Angelique Poppaea, the mother of light. Yes, brought the light with her. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yes. I'm so glad you guys are here because today we are discussing The Climb. As you guys know by now, Sunday Sessions is delving into those insightful and somewhat controversial conversations that we haven't had and been told not to have, but are definitely pivotal for the time that we're in right now. So The Climb is the proverbial success, the ladder to the top, whatever success may be for you. So we're going to get into The Climb. It's going to be in 3 parts. And as always, we're going to discuss how vastly different that is for wrestlers of color versus our other colleagues. And I'm really excited about this because our Black History Wrestling historical figure for this session is going to be none other than Woodrow Wilson Woolwine Strode. Say that 15 times fast, okay?
Woolwine.
So it's going to be, I'm really excited because he is actually the first Indigenous and African-American wrestler that we're going to feature. So I really want to give a voice and a big shout out to all of our Indigenous brothers and sisters who also are fighting for the same recognition as we are and who have had a history in wrestling just as long as Black wrestlers. So I'm really excited to talk about him with you guys. So we're going to start with The Climb. Started at the bottom, now we here, wherever that may be. And I want to kind of touch on the beginning. So I call this part Bottom Rung Lies. The things that we weren't necessarily aware of when we started this journey, you know, as we're starting that long crystal stair to the top, so to speak. The things that we think and the things that are actually occurring. I'm gonna have to go age before beauty this time, Mother of Light, and we're gonna start with you, Rev, and you especially being signed to Ring of Honor, COO. Is that it? Of Shane Taylor.
Yep, all the labels and all the
right, all the labels, things and stuff. America's best newsman. All the just you're brimming with black boy joy.
Everything but sleeping, Ronnie. Everything but sleeping.
Right, brimming but not sleeping. So for you, being a veteran and having, have gone a long way through a lot of things, what were your bottom rung lies when you started out? What did you think, and how did that really open up for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, Ronnie, thank you for, just giving us opportunity for, for these sessions, especially around this time. And I think this is definitely something that's very crucial and hopefully very healing for a lot of people that might have not felt like they had a voice. So, just starting off, I think with me, starting back in 2011, August 2011 is when I started. I was down in Florida off of the Wild Simone with the Wild Simone Pro Wrestling Training Center. And, it was one of those things I think universally around that time was respect for the business. And I still believe that today, respect. But I think, especially in that time, even years way before I got started, it was one of those things where respect and getting the respect beaten to you just at the training level kind of went hand in hand. And, getting into it, you didn't think that it wasn't normal. You thought this is what had to be done. If I break a couple of ribs in training and it purposely, it's part of the business.
Right. Well, better tape those ribs up and keep
just tape them up, rub some dirt in it and get back in it, So I think that was one of the main things. And granted, we weren't at that point. I was very fortunate to be, brought up around a family that was very respected in that business. And that wasn't really the case. But I think the mindset of, just even like a normal man, to where it's like, suck it up, deal with it. How do you overcome it? And how do you pursue it? And I think, that lifestyle as a man kind of went hand in hand when it came into the wrestling business. So I think that was one of the things when even going from there and looking at other camps, when I had the opportunity to, go to other companies and everything. And at certain times I had extra time to see how they are training. It was all in that mindset of, this is how we do it. If you don't respect it, you're going to get the crap beat out of you. You're going to get, if you can't deal with it, get the F out,
Right. Yeah.
And so I think, with a lot of people that grew up within about that 10 to 6, 10 to 5 years, to start to kind of progress around about 2015, where we slowly started to see things kind of ease out a little bit more consistently. But I think around, 2015 at the latest, to all the way back, especially all the way back, you were back to the thing that it was the mindset of, this is how you start in this business. If you don't like it, get out and find another job. And I think around that time, a lot of people dealt with a lot of hard stuff that they just felt like, I got to swallow this up, because if I say something about it, I'm perceived as weak. If you're Black, you're perceived as a problem child, and you're weak. It was. I mean, Ron, you can attest, like, it was a lot of problems to where, in general, you will be perceived as one way, but if you're Black, you're one way, and this, and this, and this.
A whole lot more.
Yeah,
and then some. And then some. And some extra stuff that, has nothing to do with it. But
so, Angelique, how was that? Oh, your face. Tell me what was because you're.
Okay, I can hear you. What's going on?
I'm sorry, babe. It said you're 2 years, right?
I'm 4 years.
Okay. So
that's including the time I started training.
How was your journey? What were those things at the beginning that, like Rev said, you may have come in with or thought about, but realized the differences, especially as a woman of color, and especially as a unique woman of color, because they don't love that.
I could definitely agree with like certain things that he was saying. But I feel like by the time that, can you still see me? Because it just went black.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Because I started training around 2016. So that's when, like, in a sense, like, wrestling was slowly changing, and there was the people were starting to do the whole new school thing, and that the old school rules, even though they were kind of still there. So I could totally relate to certain things that he's saying. And this is kind of for a person that, my trainer is an African American man. But when I came in to train, I didn't know exactly what I was expecting, but I made it clear that I'm here to be a wrestler. And that's it. And they were just trying to, I guess I'm assuming every female wrestler goes through this when they start trying to scare you and be like, oh, you're gonna break into pieces and stuff. And I was just like,
wait,
listen.
What? Break into pieces? What?
Yeah, like the whole bumping and stuff like that. Like, they try to put that fear on you, and I'm just like, well, if it happens, it happens.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm sorry I just Kanye'd you. I want to know about this because ain't nobody say nothing to me. Okay, like, nobody was caring if my pieces were everywhere. What?
I think it was more.
We're gonna make you the Kit Kat.
I think it was more like. Well, they wasn't being rude about it. I think it was more so joking, but it's when you're like because I was like at my tryout, I was like the only girl, and like the first thing they see is, okay, oh, a girl, she thinks she's gonna be a wrestler. Okay, let's see what she got. And like I'm like, okay, I'm like, I mean, I don't have nothing to prove. Like, I don't have like an athletic background, because I am a goddess from Legendland, and we don't have sports like that going on. So, just give me what you want to give me, and then I'll decide if I want to, continue. Because it's like you're trying to like scare me, but I really didn't have like high expectation. It was like, okay, let's get in the ring. This is how training's going to be. Where guys, who have sports, have like sometimes come in with this huge ego. Well, I did this and I did that, and I'm just like, I'm just here.
Right.
I'm just here. But like, the whole like, the respect thing, and keeping quiet and stuff like that. I don't know if it's like the Black women inside of me, but you start to like when you first start training, you like when you start training, you get all excited and stuff like that. But when you get like thrown out there, you start to notice certain things, and that kind of makes you raise your eyebrow a little bit. And
so what did you
certain
start to
things.
notice? What did you start to see after you had been doing it for a little while? Like what, especially as a woman of color coming with such a unique personality and a unique view of wrestling, what did you see starting out that was the eyebrow raise, that was the side eye?
Oh yeah, you definitely have to, as a Black woman, you definitely do have to work harder at everything. For sure. And even if you do that, you just might not get rewarded anyway. Because they don't, because you can do all that stuff and they still will not like want to pick you or anything. Like when I was training, I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna be booked. I'm gonna wrestle all over the world. And it really didn't work that way. And I also started to notice that I guess there's just like certain rules in wrestling when it comes to like, well, it's rules like
rules.
How can I kind of sum this? I could definitely sum it with this conversation with my trainer, which I do love, don't get me wrong, but I accept the fact that our experience are going to be different. Like I would use like NBA and basketball and football. Yes, the owners are there's racism there, but at the end of the day, they know that they can't make their money without Black guys. So if a promoter is racist and he thinks that Black people are like the worst at the end of the tunnel pole, he knows that if he wants to make actual money, he can't just have a show with just white people in there. And it's the same thing where some promotions, they have people of color on there, and sometimes how the LGBT community there, when they have like huge like their intention is to make more money, but at the same time they don't care for like certain individual of that group. And with me being so unique, for I am a goddess from Legendland, I decided that I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous, so I might be all over the place.
You're fine.
It was hard.
Speak your mind, sis.
It was hard. It was really, really hard. And I think what really hurts the most about the whole entire thing is that my fellow Black male wrestlers, they sometimes they just can't understand, and they be like, I understand, but no, you can't. There's been times that I've been in situations where I will go out my way to shows to help with setup because I just want experience, like, please, because my fellow, mind you, I am the first female trainee at DFW of Pro Wrestling, like the first female trainee, and there were girls of different race that were getting bookings like left and right, and I was like struggling, and I was just like, wow, can someone help me? And I would like use like my own money to go to shows and to help set up and like hope to be on the shows. And I've been in situations where I started to realize they just wanted to use me for setup. I've been in situations when they had me where wrestlers have called in, and I was like, well, I have my gear. You know who my trainer is. You know who I'm trained by. I'm ready. And they had me call someone else to come to the show. And it really sucks. And then you have people telling you, well, your gimmick. Number one, it's not a gimmick. Okay, this is all real here. Let's make that clear. But like, your gimmick is cool, but I kind of use your kind as heel against another white girl, and to be
isn't that how it's
told
always
that to be like to be told that it really sucks. And then I remember I had this like discussion with my trainer, and I remember he asked me this question, and and like me and him would like kind of go back and forth with that, because it was to the point that like I just felt like at the end of the day he would never be able to relate to me, because he's
different experience.
The privilege is very different. He's an African American man. He would do it racism, but he has that privilege where hey, we need a guy. Okay, we're gonna pick you. Oh, we need girls. Okay, well, sometimes it's the promoter is attracted to a certain girl, and you just might not fit what he finds attractive. But I remember he told me he asked me this question, and he was like, when you're in that ring, how can people relate to you? Like, how can they relate to you? And we had these conversations so many times before then, to the point that I got exhausted. And I wanted to answer, but I always tried to be respectful, and I didn't want to be disrespectful towards him. And it was constant. And that doesn't mean that my trainer is a bad person. It's like he won't understand my experience.
Right.
But if I was going to answer, I would have been like, they can only relate to what the media tells them what I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be this, I'm supposed to be that. I'm supposed to be all these things, and that's not what I am. I have been told that I don't come off aggressive, but I don't come off as an aggressive way that they want me to. But it's just like,
you mean the angry Black woman that
the
you get
angry Black
characterized
woman
as?
And I was
a negative
the attitude.
Yes.
And
right. Oh, but you guys only want like the anger and the attitude when you
The
want me to
attitude.
heal up. That's so like when it's convenient for you and it's comfortable for you. But any other time, just go on and water that all the way down. Is that okay?
Yes,
cool.
exactly. Yeah, and then and each to their own. Each
Right.
to their own. And like, my trainer is amazing. He is the measuring stick of professional wrestling. Lou Gotti. He's a boss. He has a certain energy that he has. I can't be who he is. I can't I can't be that kind of boss.
And I
but
think
I can be my boss in my white dress with my lights, with my blue hair, and be whatever I want to be.
I think also your trainer, like a lot of our trainers, come from what Ron was referencing earlier, the early generation. And so Ron, I think you and I are actually of the same because I started like 11, 12.
Yep.
So I was right in the thick of that.
Yeah. Good to see
Yeah,
that.
and you were
being a
before
female
me.
too, even
I
more.
mean, so a lot of trainers from the earlier period had definitely an experience of more of a Wild West sort of atmosphere that truly mimicked our society in the sense of how wrestling and race were intertwined. So, and misogyny and the patriarchy, but we won't go into all that, but it was definitely more accepted and not spoken about. And I don't know about y'all, but Chili told me about how he got hired, and it was because he beat a guy's ass, and Paul Heyman saw him. So he literally got hired because of violence.
Yep.
So all all of my trainers were like that. And again, just like you're saying, it's not disrespecting them because they are, at least in my opinion, my trainers are some of the best in the world. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I would not have been able to travel the world and have the experience that I had if I didn't have a good, strong foundation with these people. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I was trained by 2 white dudes and 3 black dudes. Dudes who walk around the locker room with their dicks out and, think it's appropriate to touch women. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened to me, but like I'm seeing this as I'm training early on, and I'm thinking, I'm coming into the business. Okay, I did make the mistake of watching The Wrestler a few times. That was probably not a good. So, but I'm coming in thinking it's going to be something that was completely different, and especially being the only female at my training school, okay, like in the South, I was definitely in some situations where it was like, you speak up and you might not leave this room. And not that people were going to gang up and physically hurt me, but the atmosphere of being one individual, a woman, in a room with 15 dudes, older veterans, younger guys, giant dudes, and stuff's going on in training that's like pushing the limits a bit physically. People are like throwing up, like messed up seriously. People getting put in the corner and they're getting just overhand chopped to death.
Yep, the whole line.
In a line by all of these dudes who were there. And I'm gonna say what? To who? For when? Like, no, that type of stuff was so accepted back then because that's how you build your grit. That's how you get tough, kid. And I'm like, okay, but for me, getting tough didn't require my chest.
Yeah.
I didn't require that to be caved inward for me to be strong outward. That's just not how things work for me. But at the same time, I'm from a background of competitive activities. You know what I mean? So people are like, oh, marching man's really hard. Okay, I don't want to hear it. You stand outside.
I played the sousaphone.
I
know what it is.
8 to 8, getting yelled at in the heat. Your butt crack sweating. You can't take a water break when you want one. Okay, you got to learn 85 pages of drill because they're trying to close spot. Because I got
to mark step and turn at a 45-degree angle and play a C flat.
Right.
No.
And play music, and you're carrying the big old man. Okay, and they're talking. I played flute, piccolo, and I was in color guard. So you're like, you want me to run around with this flag and toss this saber and throw a rifle and get for 45 to 45, and I'm literally 245 pounds? Okay, that's fine. I got how long? 16 counts? Okay, you're right. Yeah. Marching band's so easy, though. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I was of a background where I was used to being yelled at and pushed. You know what I mean? But when I got into wrestling, there was just such a vast difference in the expectedness of accepting stuff as respect and paying your dues and actual like borderline abuse. And I think especially as a Black woman, the first time I spoke out, I was done, especially here in the South. It was a very small community, and I was instantly marked problematic because I asked too many questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been of the type to just not ask questions. Like I can't.
Oh, same here.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hello.
Oh,
You know.
honestly, like for me, besides, like, the privilege between, like, as me as a black female wrestler and like my trainer being, a black male wrestler. Here on your experience, since my trainer pretty much trained like in between like when old school and then it was slowly becoming like kind of new school, because I believe he trained in 2000 or 1999, around that time. There was, I can definitely say that my trainer is very respectful when it comes to like training and stuff like that. Like he does do like old school training where like he's like pushing you and stuff like that. And they even like when I had like my first tryout, he even tried to make me throw up, and I didn't throw up. But he also does like like the new school, like, okay, this is like this is the old school way. Okay, then like this is like the new school way. And
so kind of merging, kind of that hybrid style
merging
from
together.
going. Yeah.
And like my trainer is very, very talented to like he will show us something in the ring and he'd be like really, really quick and stuff. And he'd be like, any questions? And I'd just be like, yeah.
Right. Slow that down one more time.
Can you like slow it down, please? Cause like he's like, okay, here. And like later on it would make sense. But when you're like a beginner, you're just like, can you like slow it down about like times two? And he would do it. He definitely would. So just want to like just put that out there. Yeah.
So it's that climb. So as you're, now that you've climbed kind of out of that beginning, show me again, and that initial shock of everything being vastly different and being able to start to pick out those nuances, especially as a Black wrestler, of what to say, what not to say, who is a safe space and who is not a safe space. So now we start to climb that ladder a bit more. And so we kind of get into what I like to call mid-card dreams. So this is, I guess, Angelique, this would be where you are right now. Ron, Rev, please, when you got to that position where you had an understanding of how it worked and worked in the way of not kayfabe part, but you as a Black man understood. We've all had the talk, we all know, but applying that to wrestling is kind of challenging in some ways, because like you were mentioning, speaking up about certain stuff that you would normally do outside of professional wrestling life could get you blacklisted or blackballed or moved off the card. So when you got to that level, that kind of mid-card dreams level, what were some of the things that you were able to overcome and kind of hopefully pave a new and a better way forward for, with that experience that you had coming from the bottom and seeing, okay, I'm going to have to adjust real quick?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and we're just going to keep it a straight shoot here, but I'm actually very fortunate for pro wrestling because, there's real life and then there's pro wrestling. And I really feel like a lot of things, in my personal point of view, nothing makes you more prepared for real life as a Black wrestler than pro wrestling. In real life, okay, I will have to work harder. We've all had that normal talk in real life at the dinner table with our parents or guardians or aunts or uncles or grandparents. Sometimes you got to work 2 times as harder. But in pro wrestling, you got to work 5 times as harder because we know what the gimmick is. And at the same time, someone can say, hey, yeah, I'm going to show you how I feel and deal with it. If you don't like it, you don't have to work for my company. Another time I can go to NAACP. Pro wrestling, this Black guy's angry because he can't oil up and put on tights and fighting her.
Right.
I haven't seen anyone win the NAACP battle with pro wrestling. So I think in a way, once getting at that mid-card level and seeing how things worked, I had to fully get in my mindset, whoa, I know what I'm capable of doing. I know that if you give me the opportunity, give me one time to do it, give me an adequate time to do it, I'm going to steal the show respectfully while still doing it in the artistry of how a show is stacked. No matter if you put me as the first match and I'm the curtain jerker, or you put me as the main event, I'm still going to steal it regarding what you need to be done. And the crowd's going to be captivated, whether I'm a heel or a face. And I think at that time, that was kind of where my frustration was, because clearly I'm a little bit sheltered under my training, and you get your wheels underneath you and you're working at your home company shows to help grow you. And when you break that mold and now they're teaching you, hey, you have to get out, you have to travel, you have to get some miles underneath you. And now all of a sudden you're watching this person that's main event, you're watching this person is pre-main, you're watching this person is getting the title run, and here you go paying your dues time and time again. And because you're not part of this good boy clique, you find yourself in this rut saying, I know what I'm capable of doing. It's not just hype. I'm able to take constructive criticism, but I'm hearing these simultaneous positive vibes from different states and different people. So you know what you're capable of doing, but somehow you can't just break the mold. And I think that was the most frustrating thing to deal with, that I had to actually get it in my mindset. And I was just talking to my cousin yesterday. I said, you are in control of your happiness. Don't let people try to determine your worth. And I think once I was able to get it in my mindset, I know what my worth is. It doesn't matter where I'm at. My worth is going to stay the same. It's not because so-and-so has me here or so-and-so has me there. My worth is going to stay the same regardless. You're stupid if you don't see it. And so I had to get to a point that I said, I'm going to go out there. I'm not going to let the promoter, I'm not going to let the booker, I'm not going to let, the other person that says, I'm not quite feeling right tonight, I don't want to do that. But yet you can do that and more with this person that don't look like me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Flip all over the ring.
Brother, I got a bad shoulder, Right. So I think once I got into the mindset of, I'm in control of my destiny. I'm in control of how this is dictated. And at the end of the day, the most non-biased people are the fans. And so I think when I looked in the mindset of the true art of this, and even now still today, I believe it is, listen, the booker brings you in and everything, but your job is not to pop the boys and the girls. Your job is to give it to these hard-paying fans that might be spending their last dime to get here. And once I got into that mindset, I began to see things kind of get into a notch to where I said, as long as I'm focused on them, hey, if my guy doesn't want to dance the way I want to dance, that's cool. How can we do this? I tell the same story and put the primary focus on them. And then after a while, it's like, all right, this guy doesn't bring me back for 5 shows. But yet when the crowd is starting to say something, you see you're losing money now.
Right.
With money talks. And in real life, money talks, just like Black Wall Street.
Yes, absolutely. Angelique, so for you, what has changed or what is changing in terms of your mid-card dreams? Because you're kind of in the thick of it right now. So how are you dealing with those things that have kind of had to callous you and give you, that thicker skin through experience and kind of a hero's journey to where you are right now?
Okay. I just want to say he was preaching.
I mean, he is a Rev, so
yeah.
And it's on Sunday, so it's appropriate.
I can definitely relate to like certain things that he has said. So like pretty much what he was saying, it's you learning your worth. I don't have much experience, of course, because I'm still a greenhorn, and I can always improve on a lot of things. There's times that I could have trained harder than I could before. But like the one thing, because at the moment I am not active with the whole COVID and everything. And then like just dealing with like as a female, with the whole speaking out and stuff like that. It's a perfect time for you to reflect on certain things because Because I'm not sure if like you had this experience where like it's to the point that you're so frustrated and you're crying and like no one just don't understand, like no one
Girl.
no one
Yeah.
understands, and like no one clearly um just don't understand, or don't want to like understand, and then people are just like, it is what it is, and I'm just like, I and this may come off as a big head, and that's not like what I'm trying to do. And I even had to tell this to like my dear friend. Shout out to, I'm not sure if he's ever gonna see this, but shout out to like CT Jones, my white wrestling friend, because like he would listen to like my frustration. And of course he couldn't relate, but he would listen, and like he would go out his way to, help me, like try to get me books and shows and stuff. But like there were just times I was just in situations where I was watching other people wrestle, and I'm just like, no offense, like I love seeing you guys wrestle. I like seeing you guys being supportive, but that's not what I left Legend Land one, pay all this money, dealing with all these emotions that I have to deal with as a wrestler. That's not what I came in to be. Like I came in here to be a wrestler, and I slowly started to like know my worth, and being like, I can't be the best. I can't be like the best wrestler. And it's also at the same time, you should, like, I do agree with keeping your mouth shut and your eyes open. That's not right. Keep your mouth shut and your ears open. Sorry. But you definitely have to be careful what suggestions that people are throwing at you, and
Sure.
how people are taking or giving like criticism. Um, I remember I went to a seminar. I think it like, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. I think he's at the hospital. I think his name is Conan. Conan? Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember he said, he told me this. He was like, be careful what criticism that you take for certain people, because a lot of people who are vets will like take advantage to try to build you down. Like if you have like, one thing he suggested, if you have a crappy match, a vet's gonna be like, your match was really shitty, but this is the way that you can fix it. This is the way that you can fix it. So be careful. Seeking validations for people that I had tried so freaking hard to get, I had accepted the fact that I am just never gonna get it. I'm just never gonna get it. And to also taking time, like I reached out to you. Whenever a Black female wrestler is coming down to Texas, I make it my mission to go and talk to them and ask for their experience. And it's so freaking sad that we're all like experiencing the exact same experience, and it's just like, wow, this is really hard. But just slowly like knowing my worth. I'm trying to build my brand and building it how I want it to be, and also accepting the fact that I might just not be a promoter's type of wrestler, and that is totally okay, because I know I'm very, very aware. I know that I, in a sense, am a bad bitch. I know that I can be the best wrestler that I can be, and I know that I can be a legend of professional wrestling. It's me. I had to accept the fact that I had to agree and see myself personally that I can do it, and not worry about what other people are saying. Because at the end of the day, it is a competitive sport. So, yeah, I think that's it.
We're
Does
gonna
that
pass
answer
you the
your question?
offering plate.
Right.
We're gonna pass you the offering plate, girl.
We're gonna pass the plate. Y'all please make sure that you put in enough. We are trying to replace the Black Jesus statue out front that was vandalized earlier this week. We will have Sister Pearl, who will be collecting that additional $10 from everyone. We're gonna have the choir go into hymn number 382. Okay, we are not using the iPhone hymnals, everyone. We are using the original red version. Okay, so we're not going to be having that. Jesus didn't have an iPhone, neither should you. All right.
Oh,
okay.
Don't forget about the refreshments
I saw the red
after service.
Y'all, I'll see y'all after service in the fellowship hall.
Yeah. What refreshments? Take one plate at a time for yourself.
White somebody want honey bun cake, it's gonna be off the chain, right?
Yeah. 2 pieces of chicken, some greens,
Oh, yes,
and 1 piece
Oh
of bread.
yes. Now you're talking.
guys.
With
Totally off topic.
the bowl that I call the Jesus juice. It's the fruit punch and Sprite. Sometimes
Oh yes.
mixed
Yes.
with annual service it is.
Listen, I was not allowed to have that because when she got a little sugar and little Nicole, oh, it's a wrap.
Oh, it's all right. She ain't making it to second service.
Okay, listen, I couldn't sit still, hopping everywhere. Okay, we in children's church trying to watch VeggieTales. I'm trying to build stuff. Okay, talking about I'm about to build the Tower of Babylon. Okay, can you sit down, please? Like, yeah, I couldn't have any of the juice. My mom cut me off with the juice. When my grandmother, and this is so off topic, y'all, but it is Sunday sessions and we in church. Okay, my grandma was primitive Southern Baptist. Okay, so that was a 1-room church in the woods.
Ooh.
And they would set the food up in the middle of the church. And service was like 3.5 hours long, guys. I'm not even kidding you. Okay. So I'm watching like all this food, and like sitting there trying to sniff.
You're trying to vicariously eat it, like.
Right. I'm trying to vicariously eat through the Holy Spirit. I'm hoping that it's gonna, it never worked out for me. But long way around, I think it's what you said, Angelique, is true, that we all are having these experiences. And how much does that speak to the industry changing? What does that truly say? Because we can see the difference and the shift in training styles just through our conversation. But the perception of Black people, especially Black women, maybe some of the fetishism of our Black men, let's just call it what it is. They love to throw the mandingos out there. Hasn't changed. It hasn't evolved, so to speak, as much as we would have liked. And it definitely hasn't afforded our fans and the people who watch wrestling, I believe, a full picture of what is out there and what is representative of people of color and entertainment in general. You have so many people dialed into different forms of entertainment right now, not only because we're all locked down with the pandemic, but because we as a collective people are kind of waking up to these different realities of us not being as divided as we thought, especially financially. It's not just certain people losing out, like everyone's losing right now, and we're all trying to fight and survive. And I've always said wrestling should be a representation of what the world really is, and we're 2 Black women right here, with 2 very different characters, with 2 very different personalities, but sharing the exact same experience of not being seen.
It was like one thing he said, you gotta work you gotta work 5 times harder. But and even seeing the women on mainstream wrestling, we are so easily criticized. If our wrestling is not great, they criticize us about that. But if our wrestling is good, but if our mic skills are not the best, they will criticize about that. If our wrestling and our mic skills, they might criticize about our looks. Like, it's always something just to find, and that's how it is in like entertainment business in general. And it's just to the point, like, yikes. Like, I have people trying to change who I am. Like, well, why won't you just be this and you be that? And I'm like, well, this is who I am, and I'm open for like options, which maybe do this or do that. And there was times that I try to get more advice outside of like the training center, because I was like, wasn't necessarily getting it there. And I had people like Mercedes Martinez and Faye Jackson telling me, just be bigger, be more. Because you have to, because I can't, you know, I'm not saying who's wrong in that conversation, but when it comes to like the hair color situation and stuff like that, I get it. I totally get it because we have to stand out. We have to exactly like stand out. Like you can have 10 different 10 different blondes, but that's only that one spot for that black girl. We all have to fight for it. So
Right.
if you know if I'm wrestling and then there's a girl that comes and tries to be exactly like me, it's to the point like, oh, now not only do I have to go against her because she's black, because like we're so similar, because they will only take that's only like that one spot. And I hate it's like, well, you know, it's that one spot, but there needs to be more spots for us. Like you could easily just have 2 black girls on the show.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
and completely different.
I'm gonna challenge you to not accept that.
Oh,
Period.
I'm not. I'm
Just
not.
in the sense that there's room at the table for everybody to eat. There's a seat for every single person of color at the table, because there is some child or some individual out there matching your characteristics, relating to you. You may not even see them, you may not even know them, but you have to be able to be visible for that representation to actually count. It doesn't count when you just fill that one black spot. We are past 90s TV where there's the token black friend. We're done. Because as we've seen, there's such a vast array of what it means to be a black person. None of us are monoliths, you know?
Yeah.
The whole caricature of what it is to be black died ages ago. It's always funny to me that Black people are often stymied and pigeonholed into being a certain way, but all facets of our culture are appropriated.
Oh yeah.
Ways. So interesting how that happens. That
I was just having that conversation today.
Like we don't get the chance. We're not allowed to be anything other. Okay, so you can't have teal hair. I can't have red hair. Ron, you can't be a Rev because Black people are Revs. You know what I mean? Like, what do you? Who are you to tell me who I am and what I can be, when I was always taught you can be anything you want to be? And if I'm not mistaken, that was the American dream, that you could be whoever you wanted to be. Or does that only apply to a certain sector of the population? Interesting. It's very
and that's the only thing that's like the only thing that keeps me going, because it fucking sucks. It does not feel good. If I can make as much of an impact, so like a girl, because it's not just you're dealing with more like, you know, the stuff mentally with wrestling as you're starting. And then you're adding so much more, and it's not fun. There's been times that, you know, like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy and I hate it when like people try to make you out to be negative, and I'd be like, no, I'm happy that everybody's getting their spot.
Babe, look,
but
you don't have to
I want to be out there too. I
don't ever have to qualify.
I want to be out there too. I love you guys tons, but I did not pay my training fees on time at that to, you know, to just stand there and watch people wrestle. I want to go out there. I want to make a name for myself. And like, it really sucks that like I had people look at me like all like naive and stuff. Like, you really think you can be like a star in wrestling? Like, you can be a legend?
Yes,
and like,
I absolutely believe that. I'm not sure
like,
where you
wow,
lost it.
Like, I can't do nothing. I'm just supposed to be just, you know, a side. And you know, that's the only thing that keeps me going, because it's not fun. I've been crying. There's times that I don't have the energy to get to training, because it's just like, what's the point? Because no one believes in me.
It is a mental toll.
It's not fun. It's not fun. It really isn't.
Jump in? Hold on,
I would say real quick, Ronnie, and just to encourage you. And this is a weird thing, because Sorg will tell you, he's probably off camera laughing when I say this, but I sometimes have a weird comparison. But I often say that, especially with us being Black, there's a difference between the basics of artistry, and then you have your flavors. And I think a lot of times when it comes to being a Black wrestler, people that do not necessarily agree with you being an African-American wrestler, being a Black wrestler, being an Indigenous wrestler, whatever your minority group is, they don't necessarily agree with it. So what they do is they mask, here's how the artistry is done, to then cover you up and try to change your flavor. And I compare wrestling, and it's a weird comparison, but I compare wrestling to potato chips, okay? You have your artistry of it, okay? Potato chips are a potato. They're cut very thin. They're roasted. There's an artistry to how everything's a potato chip. But then look at your flavors. You have your barbecue, your salt and pepper, your vinegar, your honey, your this, your that, your Doritos, your this and that. So don't let people try to switch up your flavor. If that's you, be real to yourself. If they don't like it, guess what? As long as you stay true to yourself. And I think that was one thing that, and Ryan, we can talk about this when you get to your next step, but that was one thing that set me up to where I am now, was I found myself wanting to surround myself with people that wanted to think like me. We might not be your flavor, but we're somebody's bag of chips. You know what I'm saying? We're not the bag of chips. But it's a real thing. Don't let anyone tell you what you can't be. Yes, there are some things that have to be done somewhat of a certain way, but there's 50 million ways to do it. But at the same time, outside of all of that, and that's typically, if it's done right, it's just to keep you safe. But outside of all of that, don't let anybody change the flavor and the walk of life that you want. Because just like Ronnie said, there is someone looking at you that you don't even know of, that you might meet 20 years from now, that says, oh my goodness, I remember you. This is how you helped me through depression. This is how you helped me through drug addiction. This is how you helped me through that. I was never able to meet Eddie Guerrero, but whenever my good time comes, I'm never able to meet him on the other side of the sky. He doesn't probably even know that he encouraged me to do what I'm doing, that somehow I'm encouraging others to do what they're doing. So everything always comes back full circle as long as you stay true to yourself.
Absolutely, 100%. Definitely my full circle moment was going from seeing Aja Kong and Manami Toyota on a grainy VHS tape to being in a locker room with her and then being able to wrestle with her, and just having this sense of, you are what wanted to bring, like, you brought me here. The fact that you came to Japan as Hafu, half Japanese, half Black, and they created a whole term to put your name so high because you're that impactful of a wrestler and a senpai there. That for me was so gratifying. Whether or not I do the obligatory WrestleMania point, which Vince, figure it out, but whether or not that happens, that moment for me was ingrained in my brain since I was a kid. So the fact that as an adult, I got to share a locker room with this woman and tell her, you were someone who led me down this path. You probably faced a whole lot of different things that I had to, especially being in Japan, because that's a whole nother conversation. But like, being all the challenges, climbing to the mid card, trying to get international, going international, facing different challenges there. Every step was because I saw you and because I wanted to be that for someone else who looked like me, who inspired me. Which is why I'm so excited about our historical figure, because we as Black people are always having to fight for recognition and, switch it up and kind of make our own avenues. And it never, even crossed my mind that there have been Indigenous wrestlers that whole time. So when I came across Woody Strode, I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing, because how wrestling will always characterize Indigenous people. Yes. But they're not Indigenous. Off the top of my head, Chief Jay Strongbow, because he was Italian.
Yep.
Lone Eagle was Mexican. Yep. And Little Beaver, who was like a midget guy, he was French Canadian. So, I mean, and what are we doing? Like, so it's just so strange. Well, I'm excited, but it's so strange how all of the minority groups have been in wrestling for so long, have such a rich history. I don't know if you guys have caught it. The Black Lady Wrestler documentary that just came out is on Amazon Prime.
So, I'm watching.
Make sure, yes, it just came out. So make sure you guys check it out because it is, okay. We're not going to go there. Woody Strode. Yes. Oh, but I did also want to shout out these specific Indigenous wrestlers who have been around a long time and they're fully Indigenous. I'm not shouting out anybody new. So my Indigenous friends who are new, this isn't about y'all. Okay. But I love y'all. Okay. But Chief Joseph War Eagle, who went pro at 17 years old in 1916. Nick Lassa, Chief Little Wolf, who was pro in 1932. Okay. And that was Great Depression, if I'm not mistaken. So you're talking about he's trying to wrestle and be
goodness gracious. I got gray hair just listening.
Okay, because you know the journey as a pro wrestler is rough, even in these times. So you talk about, y'all ain't have money, having, a one potato in the water soup and calling that soup. I don't know how.
Taking pay cuts.
Right. What was the pay cut then, brother?
Yeah.
Who else? Ben Bolt, Mays McLean, Chief Don Eagle, Princess Tonatoma, Chief Big Heart, Princess Little Cloud, and Princess Victoria, who I actually did know about because when I started pro wrestling, some of my trainers who were like, "Oh, she's a little lady. I guess she should watch some ladies." So they sent me a match with her. They sent me Susan Tex Green and a couple other, older ladies. So I was, very happy to know of her. But Woodrow Wilson Woolwine Strode, okay? A lot of people probably know of him because he was an NFL player and he was an actor. So, but he had, like, in between his NFL playing and his acting career, he, like, was a pro wrestler. And so he was originally from Louisiana, but moved to California. And he was born in 1914. So he is Black Indian. His grandmother's Black Cherokee. His grandfather was Black Muskogee. And he started wrestling at about 1941 and was active from about 1941 to 1962. But the cool thing is that he actually teamed with Bearcat Wright and Bobo Brazil. So those were kind of like his road dogs while he was wrestling. But he definitely was a Renaissance man. He was an AFIA. He won a Golden Globe. He had a really successful football and track career. He was the Pacific Coast Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, as well as the Pacific Coast Negro Heavyweight Champion. I always love to throw Negro in there. And that was actually in the 60s. So we're still using Negro in 1962. Shows how much has changed and how much hasn't, if you really think about it. But he actually ended up marrying a princess, like a legit princess. She was one of the last descendants of the last queen of Hawaii. I'm not gonna butcher this woman's name. Okay, I'm not even gonna do that to her because I'm gonna put respect on her name. But I'm gonna need y'all to go to Wikipedia and look at that, okay, for correct pronunciation. I'm not even gonna do that, ma'am. Aloha. But he actually was a martial artist. He was a Kempo guy. And fun fact, Woody of Toy Story is actually named after him.
Get out of town. Listen,
yes, they actually took Woody.
Guilty pleasure. I was just watching Toy Story 1 through 4 last week.
So they took his name from Woody Strode, and he also on the first couple seasons of Psych. I don't know if you guys remember that show where the guy was like faking being a psychic. The coroner, who has the same name. So Woody, he is also an homage to Woodrow Wilson Woolwine Strode. That's so many W's. His mom was on it, but he was a really interesting guy because he did all of these things and he really had a passion for entertainment. By all accounts, he was like a really awesome, fun, like man about town kind of guy who had a passion for so many different things that he was just always trying to excel and be at the top, and that included pro wrestling. But people may know him from 10 Commandments, Spartacus, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, but his IMDb is stacked. Because once he stopped wrestling, he really, he just hit a lick with the whole acting thing and went full force. But the things that I really found was interesting was because he was wrestling pretty much in a time where it was still Jim Crow. So as he's traveling with Killer Kowalski, like they had to put him in the trunk. And we talked in Sunday sessions too. The same thing happened to Sweet Georgia Brown. They had to sneak her in the trunk because, you know, this is still during segregation. They're staying at whites only hotels. So they're sneaking him into the hotel, and, you know, Kowalski's having to bring him food back to the hotel just so that they can eat and be on the road together in specific places. So this guy who was so talented and had such a, you know, amazing career and such a rich history and had done so much was still having to do these things that were like degrading, you know, to his humanity. And he still took it with grace and aplomb. And I think that was really a testament to why so many people were, you know, sad when he passed, because he just knew how to, I guess, flip the script, as we've all talked about. You know, you find once you get to that mid card, you find the groove and you realize, hey, I'm valuing myself, and still keeping the light and inspiration is going to work out better for me, because I'm not going to be able to change everybody's mind, but I can control who I am and how I look at this. And I thought that was such an appropriate, you know, person and historical figure for this particular conversation, because his climb was so meteoric, you know, and by all accounts, he witnessed a big change. Especially, we are going through that racial upheaval, but it's in a different way, you know. And I think it puts it in perspective, especially when we think about all of the wrestlers of color who had to go in a trunk. I could not imagine. I just rode 9 hours in the car,
Exactly.
and hop in the trunk so I could go sit in the hotel while y'all eat, and then you got to bring me food. We're not doing that. I'm about to DoorDash this. I don't have time. Like,
I ain't got time for this.
no, that's it. Okay, I'm 34 now. I do one match and my body falls apart. Okay, I don't care.
I can't complain about a flight ever again.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I couldn't imagine. So if people want to check more out about Woody Strode, you can always look at one of his most famous matches was where he faced Gorgeous George. So I think that would be awesome for everybody to dive into. But I definitely love when I'm talking and looking into these historical figures, because Angelique, you said it, our experiences aren't that different. I'm a little bit further along in the business, but we're both Black women. Ron, your experience isn't that different. You're further than me. You're a man, I'm a woman, but we're still running into these same things just like they did, you know? And so putting it in that context, it really, there has to be a shift and there has to be a change. And I do think that these conversations are going to get in the ear of where it needs to, because let's keep it real. We as people of color are not the majority of the promoters at this time. We are not the ones holding the bag, so to speak, at this time.
Yep.
So
at this time,
it is at this time. Okay. So it's important for people who are in these positions, like you're talking about, Angelique, to realize this is a problem that we did not create, but has been here the entire time. And it is up to those people in power who have the authority, who have the ability, I would almost say have the responsibility to open these avenues until specific avenues can be achieved in other ways. Because how else are we going to show up for everyone who looks like us?
Exactly.
You know, how else are we going to truly get those depictions? And Angelique, you said it, we can have 15 versions of the same blonde girl, and no disrespect to their level of talent and ability.
Yes.
What we do is hard. It takes a lot to be in this ring. It takes a lot to be on an extended schedule, you know, for these people who are in the most prominent companies. Big shout outs to them. No one is taking away from that work and that what you have to do to stay there. But let's not act like the road there is the same for everyone. Let's not act like the standard is the same for everyone, because you're exactly right. You know, Nia can make one mistake on camera. She can do one thing wrong.
Yes.
It can look like the bump is unsafe, and they will rip her to shreds.
Yes.
but you can have actually unsafe people who might happen to have blonde hair and be very tall do unsafe things regularly,
Yeah.
and nothing is said. And that distinction is not new, but also is detrimental, because what it continues to reinforce is the good bad. It's painting one action more acceptable than the other. If you're unsafe, period, full stop. If you're going to break someone's neck, doesn't matter if they're purple, green, or red, their neck's going to get broken because you don't know what you're doing. Let's it's very interesting to see that these things are not moving as fast, even though our world is shifting, even though wrestling itself is shifting. To me, there's a new style that's come out called athletic storytelling, because there are guys who have found a way to blend that old school AWA style with that new school Ricochet, Osprey, flippy stuff.
Yes.
There's a way that they tell a story with their bodies that still conveys the message. And I think that's cool and new and fun, because it keeps the business going and growing and keeps
it fresh. One thing my trainer said, that you can, just because it's new school, you don't completely forget about the old school. You can mix it together, like, not like, and it makes the show more fun. You'll see a old school match where it's mostly just mat wrestling, and then you have guys that are just flipping all over the place. It keeps everything fresh.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those flippers. Okay. But
I can see you doing the 450, Ronnie.
You said what, Ron? You said what, Ron?
I can see you doing the 450. I'm waiting
I
for
don't
it.
like 350.
Maybe in a dream. Okay. I did consider doing a 619 one time. But my lower body told me to reconsider that. So, some of the lucha stuff doesn't go so great for me. I wanted to do that, handspring off the ropes and then come down. And then my lower body was like, and we're going to bring this. So, you got to do what you can do. I'm not saying I never will, but right now, these ham hocks they're not doing that. So,
work what you got.
Right, girl, you got to work with what you got. So, view from the mountaintop. We've climbed, we're climbing. Some of us are still climbing, okay? But big picture, you're at the top, looking out into the wrestling vista, okay? What does that look like moving forward, Angelique? I'm going to start with you. What does it look like in your perfect wrestling world? What does that look like? The view from the mountaintop, if we're talking how the business needs to go to the future.
Like the business or like for me personally?
Both, whichever one.
Okay.
The business, or for you, well, for you as a Black woman in the business. There we go.
I mean, I can't really comment too much of like business wise, because I mean, there's no telling if like you know that saying, things change but they kind of remain the same.
Yeah.
So I can't really say too much with that, especially with me still being green and everything. But for me personally, me on my mountaintops, I did things my way. I did things my way. I did things my way. And I hope during that time, I'm able to influence people to, follow your lights, whatever that is, and follow your dreams. If you have a vision, go for it. Work hard for it, and be open to take criticism, but also be careful what you take, because not a lot of people have good intentions. I really hope that I can be big enough. Like we mentioned the whole like privilege thing. One thing that I definitely noticed is that me, I am a friendly person, but I don't have like my own thing where I can make a connection with a vet that can hopefully, try to get my name here and like my name there. One thing I do notice in the lucha culture is that, when there's newcomers in the Hispanic culture, like, in Mexico or and here, they immediately make sure that they go to Mexico to like know their roots and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to inspire anyone. It's not saying that I just want to inspire just Black girls, but knowing how hard it is, I hope that I can be that can help Black girls and help them get their name out there. Because I feel like that's one thing that I feel like that's something that we need, especially hearing how our experience, like, it seemed like, our fellow, female wrestlers on different race, their things are changing. They're rising straight to the top. I'm seeing girls that wrestle in Texas that hasn't wrestled as long as I've been in the business. And like, congratulations to them. But they're quickly getting their names out there. And if I can make such a big impact to where, I can go to, okay, I can take these, Black girls or anyone for that matter, but I'm aiming for them because it's harder. They're gonna have the hardest. Where I can take them in their car and take them to my car and travel around to try to get their names out there. Because me as a Black female, it's not saying, if you want to go to a show, jump in someone's car. But I won't always have an opportunity because I can't just jump in the car with a bunch of guys.
Right.
Like, we're speaking out, like, there's just certain things that I have to question before I do it because it's my protection as a Black person and a Black female. I'm in Texas. When I get a booking, I got to make sure that it's not someone racism.
Right.
And
it's in a safe place that you can actually get there and get home safely. Right.
Yeah. And there's like certain rules I have to follow. There has been times that I had to travel by myself to shows. And that's not safe, but it's a desperation for you to gain experience. Like, I've been wrestling for 4 years and I started to get comfortable in the ring and get comfortable with the audience, not until like the beginning of last year. And then things were looking up. I was getting the experience, and then COVID happened. And there was times, life. Yes. And I had to travel myself, and I had to make these rules that I will go to the show, try to be there early to help with setup. But if I'm traveling by myself, I'm sorry, I can't help you turn on the ring. I have to go home. So it's me on the mountaintop. I did things my way, and like I always say, you either follow the light or get left behind. And if you choose to get left behind, that's your fault.
That's on
you. So
you.
when I'm giving you this opportunity, and it's not me being egotistic or anything, just
your value, your
I know
worth.
my value. You either believe me or you don't. And
don't believe
when
me,
I get
watch.
to and then when I get into the mountaintop, don't, and I get to where I want to go. Don't post a picture of, I always believed in her.
All right.
No, you did not. And and a lot of people do that. It's just like, and like, definitely one thing I've learned, a lot of you're gonna meet like a lot of people that you think are friends with, but you're not friends with. But those people that you can trust, hold on to them as much as you can.
For sure. So
and make memories. So yeah.
Make memories. So
yes.
Rev, for you, what is, and especially because of where you are right now, okay? Yeah. Boss Hoss and Ring of Honor.
We're making it happen somehow.
Okay.
Someone hasn't killed us off the grid yet.
Look, you're doing it, okay?
Oh, so, we blessed, man. We blessed.
With that, of course, you're not at the summit. There's always further to climb. Yes. But where you are, what does it look like for you? What would you say the view from the mountaintop moving forward, especially as it relates to you as a Black man and for us as Black wrestlers? What can we do, and what do you see we can do?
Yeah, well, I say one of the biggest things is don't get caught up in the perceived glamour. I think grass always looks on the other side, and I think one of the things that I value to myself, even prior to wrestling, you know, no matter what I was able to do, I always wanted to be able to stay true to myself at the highest ability possible. And you know, with me, you know, being brought up in church, one of the scriptures says, you know, what profit a man to gain the whole world if he's going to lose his soul? Sell my soul for the money, for the glamour, for the this, for the that. But how can I be the most successful I can? And if I can, be the wealthiest I can, but at the same time, stay true to myself to let my brothers and sisters know, if I can do it, you can do it. And you know, just like Angelique said, you know, there will be times that even at certain levels where you're like, hey, I don't know how this is going to happen. And I will tell you, you know, I still, to be where I'm at now, I still had to work 10 times, 15 times as harder. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, be told no and be comfortable with that, but saying, okay, no is just an abbreviation for not right now. And so, you know, how can I go and stay in front of them? And I think even now, you know, even outside of Black history, but always looking at our culture. And you know, I put this on, and I'm all over like TikTok and social media, but I put this on TikTok. I shared a girl's video that was giving a remembrance to Black history and slavery and overcoming. And I said, you know, stay strong, my kings and queens. You know, overcoming is in our DNA. And when you look at people like a Rosa Parks, like a Martin Luther King, like, you know, like a Harriet Tubman, like a Sojourner Truth, you know, when you look at all these people that said, okay, all right, you might get me at this level, but if I go underground and I do this, you know, I'm still going to be able to make a way out of no way. And, you know, I think even when you look at, and this is a cool thing that I didn't know until I had braids, and way back in my career, people call me Baby J Lethal because I had cornrows. And I was
I remember that.
They call me They're like, Baby J. And I'm like, come on, man. So then I cut it off after a while. But, you know, even looking at, you know, and this was something I found out probably about 4.5, 5 years ago during Black History Month, that the cornrows were actually made during slavery time to be a map that they were putting to people's
for slave routes. Yep.
Yeah, so you can get
safety.
So overcoming and finessing, dripping in finesse is
dripping in finesse.
In finesse is hey, Bruno Mars, I love you, bro, but we got it even further than you, man. It's in our DNA to do stuff like that. So, you know, I took pride in knowing that overcoming and making a impossibility possible is part of us. And that went hand in hand, you know, around that time, but that was my next level of getting past that middle ring and getting there. So right now, I would say, you know, just being able to stay true to myself and being at the highest possibility, while at the same time not losing who I am and what my culture is. And so I think that right now I'm absolutely there, but you're never satisfied. You're always looking to grow. And one of the cool things that I will tell you is, and you know, Grant and I got, you know, as you know, you do, Ronnie, we have friends all over the place at different levels. And, you know, I had to mature in the business because a certain company that I allowed to dictate my worth. Because I would see who they would call, just like you were saying, Angelique, even at a higher stage, and who they would call based on what I knew I was capable of doing, and knowing these people don't even know how to spell the full name of this 3-letter company, but at the same time, they're there and they're with a contract. And so once I began to realize, just like, you know, what my true worth was, I began to say, okay, how can I stay true to myself and do this? And then I rearranged my focus and I put my focus on that. And one of the greatest things, and I'll show you guys this real quick, because I always, just like I do in like the shoot world, I have a dreams list and a goals list. And the biggest thing that I can tell people is write it out, or if it's a picture, print it out. And one of the main things was in 1998, Eddie Guerrero was the one that made me go from a fan to saying, how the heck can I do this? It was after WCW Bash at the Beach. 2005, I went to my first ever live pro wrestling show, Orlando, Florida. It was a TNA show and they still had a 6-sided ring. This is let me see if I can get it. This little
is that you?
Cap with his hand extended out. I forgot what female wrestler is, but that is actually me, front ramp.
Is that ODB?
I believe no. So it wasn't ODB. I forgot who it was, but I think
wait.
I can't see the picture. I can see the little hand reaching though.
Yes, I was saying it. So this little red hot tamale looking guy with his arm out. That's actually me on ramp side. So that gave me the further Jones, and this was actually a guy that a lot of us have seen before back in that time in 2005.
Oh wow,
Lethal.
Yeah,
he was in TNA.
I know that forehead anywhere. No offense, Jay.
That's another reason why I cut the braids off. I didn't want to be a Nelly J Lethal in the ring. But you know, the coolest thing that I could say is, I believe it was Final Battle 2019. Was the biggest pay-per-view that, you know, I was, you know, they pulled the plug and we were doing the TV tapings and everything, what we were doing with Shane Taylor Promotions. And then, all right, cool. And they pulled the plug for Final Battle. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like their biggest show. The two people that I met that was there hours before just chilling was Jay Lethal's parents. And I already shared this story with Jay well before I was signed when I was at my first tryout and met him. And I was legit in tears when I was talking to him just about you know, the perception, the relatability, being that person is everything, just like we see our vice president right now. And I told his parents, I said, hey, you guys don't know me, but I know you. I just want to tell you guys thank you. And I told him my whole story, just briefly what I did there, but then longer. And I sat with them and I just talked to them about life and listened to them about life because they're older than me. And you know, I wanted to hear their perspective. And that was the biggest full circle for me. And one thing that they said that I was looking at, they said, well, you know, whatever you decide to do, always stay true to yourself. And I think that was validation to myself that money won't buy you happiness. The success, the blue check mark won't buy you happiness, because if you're not staying true to yourself, once that light clicks out and you have to deal with yourself that you can't get rid of, that you can't lock out your house, you know, you're stuck with that person. And so I think, you know, as long as, you know, whoever you are and Angelique and Ronnie, you know, you're already like this, everybody knows, you know, you shine, girl. You know, as long as you continue to stay true to yourself, everything else will fall in place. Forget what everybody else says. You stay true to yourself, everything is going to work itself out. Everything's going to work itself out.
I knew I should have thrown it to you, Rev. That's that anchor skill right there.
That's a TV right there.
That's that TV right there.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think, and I'll just say this briefly, but I think, you know, all of our struggles, and, you know, we talked about it from the beginning, and Ronnie, I listened to the other segments of Sunday Session, and, you know, I think everyone's story always comes back around to one of the biggest things that I say is, no, you cannot have a testimony without first having a test.
Have a test.
Spell the word without first spelling the 4 words, TEST. So I think, you know, take pride, take courage, and all the things that used to break you, because you're alive right now. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And the person that you're looking at in 2021, if you put them in what you thought was your worst problem in 2018, you'll be like, why did I think that it couldn't get worse?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's silly thinking about it now, but right then we're like, this is crazy. But when now you're much stronger than what you were 1, 2, 3, 4 years down. So keep on going. You know, the road's not done for you.
So keep climbing.
Keep climbing. I don't know if it's the brass ring, whatever it is, but keep climbing.
Keep going. Keep climbing. Guys, thank you so much for coming and having these conversations with me. I know that definitely in a time where we're filled with a lot of noise, that the right noise is going to cut through. Thank you for sharing your experiences with me. Make sure you guys who are watching Sunday Sessions, follow them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And I think, Ron, you've got TikTok as well. Yes?
I got the good old TikTok, the Rev Ron Hunt. I do all the funny, silly stuff that you'll be like, why the heck is he doing it?
Well, make sure you follow the Rev Ron Hunt on all of his socials at the Rev Ron Hunt. Make sure you follow the Mother of Light at Goddess A Winter P all together. Make sure you guys have subscribed to IndyWrestling.us as well as my YouTube channel. And big shout out to Michael Sorg and Sorgatron Media for facilitating these wonderful conversations. These conversations are not meant to be a pointing the finger or to make anyone feel bad, but we do have to have these controversial conversations so that we can heal and move forward as a collective people. We can't ever move forward if we don't address our past. And I hope that everyone is taking from these conversations everyone's experience and kind of unfolding that into your own lives and understanding, so that as we move forward into the unpredictable years to come, we can always move forward with a positive, well-rounded view of each other as humans, as performers, as entertainers, as fans, and we can all enjoy what we love, which is wrestling. I am Ronnie Big Bang Nicole. Make sure you're following me on all of my socials, at Glitterlicious on Twitter and Facebook. Make sure you follow at Glitterlicious Bang Bang on Instagram and Ronnie Nicole on Likey. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining Sunday Sessions. Next session is live. So February 28th, you guys make sure you're following all those pages because we're going live. And the big reveal is we will be discussing a whole lot of controversial topics with someone that the Rev knows very well, the CEO of Shane Taylor Promotions, Mr. Shane Taylor himself, as well as another Ring of Honor mainstay from way back when, Mr. Rob Prefontaine. So we're going to have a full Ring of Honor house for our live show. Please make sure you've got that, hit that notification bell, so when we go live, you guys can catch all of that. I'm really excited. It's actually going to be Facebook Live on my page, but the recording will go up on YouTube later, guys. So please make sure you are dialed in so you don't miss out. Thank you so much for joining us for Sunday Sessions. I'm Ronnie Nicole. Peace, love, and wrestling.
They've been hanging on the block a little too long.